Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this conversation now, and we continue with our coverage on the expected withdrawal of the NFP from the KwaZulu-Natal Government of Provincial Unity. Joining us now is another coalition member, and that is the African National Congress. Its coordinator in KwaZulu-Natal is Mabuyakhulu, who joins me now. Mr. Mabuyakhulu, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. I think tension is building ever so slightly, especially with this announcement expected tomorrow by the NFP. So I'd like for us to start off with a bit of a light moment to ease us into this conversation. Not too long ago, you were told by your Secretary General that they expected a Rolls Royce with this provincial task team that you are leading alongside Jeff Radebe. But what the national leadership realized is that they actually are driving a tears in KwaZulu-Natal. So with what authority would you hope to negotiate with Ivan Barnes if your national leadership does not have confidence in you?
Well, good evening, Koli, and good evening to your listeners. Well, first and foremost, Koli, let me say we welcome this opportunity to be able to be part of this interview. Well, Koli, let me say this. The current leadership of the ANC was Natal is an interim leadership. And myself and the convener and the other members of the officials know very well that we are leading an interim structure, and we were there so that we can be able to ensure that we renew the structures of our movement. And we have all of the authority that is vesting in an elected structure, although we know that we are an interim structure. So we therefore lead the ANC. We're not second-guessing ourselves, and therefore we are performing our responsibilities like any other ANC leadership would do.
Yeah. Were you offended by that statement, by the way? I know I'm taking you back now, but were you offended?
Well, let me put it very clearly, Koli. Look, I'm now a little bit older. I've never been able to see a Ferrari very closely. No, I have ever been able to ride one.
Yeah.
But I have ridden a Tars, and I know that a Tars is a family car. It's a car you can find in the township. You can find in the informal settlement, in the villages. So I would rather be part of the people's car rather than being a car for the rich and the few.
I would say that's a pot shot, actually, at Mbalula. I know exactly what you're saying.
It is just to explain.
It is a pot shot.
This is a people's car.
Okay, all right. Let's get serious now. Are you going to have discussions with the leadership of the NFP? Do you have an appointment with Ivan Barnes before he makes this all-important announcement tomorrow?
Well, first and foremost, as the ANC, we respect the NFP, and we respect the fact that the NFP has a right to make any decision about allegiances, and therefore that power and that right solely vests with the NFP. All what we are saying as the African National Congress is that the NFP became part of the parties that formed the Government of Provincial Unity in KwaZulu-Natal, and therefore we think that what the NFP can do is to actually take us into their confidence as to the reasons why, if they are indeed, as it is alleged, that they actually are pulling out or withdrawing the GPU, why are they withdrawing? But over and above that, we would like, as the ANC, which we already have written to the NFP, requesting to have a bilateral engagement, and we would not try and have a discussion on those matters in the media before we engage directly with the NFP. And our intention would be, let us discuss the wider implications of their decisions, if indeed they are withdrawing beyond the GPU. And therefore, respecting the NFP as we do, and therefore accepting that they may take a decision, they are perfectly within their power. But let me hasten to say, Tony, provisions of Section 141 of the Constitution, subsection 2, make it very clear that the government can only change if there is either a vote of no confidence, which there was an attempt to the Premier last year on the 15th of December, and it did not succeed. It either would be a vote of no confidence to the Premier or to the Executive Council. And in that instance, the majority of the legislature members, meaning 41 or more, they will have to vote in support of that motion. If there isn't any such majority support, that would not actually change the government. And therefore, as we speak right now, irrespective of what the NFP may decide, which we cannot speak for that, we think that the government of KwaZulu-Natal will continue, the GPU will continue, and we think that people of this province must know that we are a part of this government solely because we want stability, because we want peace, we want the delivery of services, and we think we will continue to be part of those who are actually doing precisely that.
Okay. I respect that you do not want to get into the content of what you are going to discuss with the NFP, but allow me to ask you just this one simple question. Who in the NFP are you hoping to meet with?
Well, the NFP has leadership. We respect the NFP leadership, from the president of the NFP, Mr. Ivan Barnes, to all of their senior officials, their deputies, and the Secretary General. And we've written a letter, and we've addressed the letter as it is the norm to the acting Secretary General of the NFP, with Dr. Peggy Klaba. And of course, this is a follow-up letter because we had also written a letter to them before the end of last year. And unfortunately, our diaries couldn't be able to talk to one another at the time. And we are hoping that this time, the NFP will grant us a bilateral so that we can be able to sit down and discuss those issues. And the ANC would like, therefore, to respect that the details of the issues of the discussion will then only have to be canvassed directly between the ANC and the NFP. And after then, we can then be able to talk to the public and the media.
Well, I would hope that that bilateral does come at some point, possibly after this interview, Mr. Mabuyakhulu, because their press alert, the NFP's press alert, is for 9 o'clock at the Garden Court in Durban. So the clock is ticking. Take us into what you believe is the driving force behind this. Francois Rogers earlier spoke about the motive, and we pontificated, him and I, about what is possibly driving them. Does the ANC have any clues?
Well, first and foremost, let me say, the meeting that we are talking about does not necessarily have to take place between now and tomorrow, and whatever time the NFP may be having a press briefing or a press alert. The meeting can take place even post-facto, post that process. So I think as the ANC, we are also busy with the January 8 activities, and most of our leaders are not even in the province. So surely we are not anticipating that meeting to happen before tomorrow. So let me be very clear. In fact, we have already made a proposal for the date of that meeting, which I will not share, to respect the NFP and the privacy of that communication. But it is not this week, and it has to be sometime into the future. So in that regard, but we would not want to speculate on what might have actually be the causal factor for the NFP. Hence, we feel, because the NFP is part of those parties that constituted the government of provincial unity, we would like to expect them to take us into their confidence. What are the factors that are driving them, instead of us speculating? That is one, because that is how respect comes. Okay. But secondly, we would like them to discuss the wider implications if indeed they are taking that decision.
What are those, Mr. Mabuyakhulu? I'm sorry to interrupt your thought process. What are those wider implications? It's the second time you are saying this.
Well, the wider implications go beyond the GPU. There are areas where there are cooperation and working together between us and the NFP. So we would like to have a sense of where they stand in terms of those matters. What do they understand to be the implication, if indeed they are withdrawing? So remember that I don't have any precise knowledge that indeed they are withdrawing.
Okay. Let me conclude then with this question, and this is me now looking into the crystal ball, but based on what has happened, this is the history between the IFP and the NFP. We know that the NFP was born out of the IFP. It's a breakaway, if you like. There were tensions between these two parties. In fact, someone was even shot within a court precinct in KZN. And the two parties were at loggerheads at that time. Could that be the motive, at least part of the motive at driving this, that there is still that animosity between the IFP and the NFP? And I say this because the person who leads the provincial government in KZN is an IFP leader in KwaZulu-Natal.
Well, Toli, you and I know the history of South Africa. We know that there has been tensions between various political formations, even before the advent of democracy. But we also know that political parties generally understand that their far greater responsibility is to actually focus on the greater interests of our people, not necessarily on what actually is their subjective interest. Now, in the situation in KwaZulu-Natal, what drove us to form the government of provincial unity are the greater interest of our people, because no single party had won the election. So we're driven by the need for stability, to forge peace, to deliver services, to ensure that the daily lives of ordinary citizens continue to work in an unaffected manner. So I still suspect that the NFP still uphold those values. Now, I think we would steer clear from speculating. Hence, we are saying we would like an opportunity to sit down with the IFP and NFP in a respectful manner, where we listen to them, where we actually hear what they are saying, where we are engaging as respectful parties. So the ANC and the NFP have had relations since the formation of the NFP, and those relations were based on mutual respect, and would like to pursue the same trust even now.
It would be remiss of me, Mr. Mabuyakhulu, not to ask you this as someone who has watched South Africa's politics for a while now. Francois Rogers reminds us that just before the government of provincial unity was formed, Ivan Barnes, the leader of the NFP, goes and sits for a considerable amount of time. This is the man on the screen right now that we're talking about. He goes to sit with former President Jacob Zuma, and he comes therefore to the meeting a little late. Do you believe that former President Zuma, the former leader of your party, the ANC at one point, could have a hand in this?
Well, Toli, let me be very clear. Once more, we will not speculate. However, we must also accept one thing. Political leaders must engage, particularly when there are big moments in the country. And they will engage with all other parties. And we must therefore not make that a big issue, because we cannot impugn that, because at any given moment, a particular leader met with another leader, and therefore something has arisen out of that. It would be speculation, pure speculation. And I think what the ANC is saying, based on our respect for the NFP and the historical relations we have had with her, we would rather want to sit down and hear from the horse's mouth, as it were, but also engage constructively. Now, also be able to push very clearly that the interest, the greater interest of the province and that of the country is at stake here. And what is important is that we have to go beyond the narrow sectarian political interest, and therefore look at the greater interest of our people, the issues of stability, the issues of ensuring that history shall judge all of us harshly if we don't take very well thought out decisions at a time when we must do so.
Mike Mabuyakhulu, the coordinator of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, you've already heard him mention that they are an interim leadership structure in that province, helping to try and rebuild the ANC there. Thank you very much for your time.